Good afternoon and welcome to From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of USC and Southern California. I'm Carla Cruz and we're coming to you live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center.
And I'm Tina Zhang. It's Wednesday, February 4th. On today's show, we discuss the Washington Post layoffs, Union del Barrio's ICE perspective, and a groundbreaking Annenberg Media investigative piece. All that and more.
From Where We Are. But first, today's headlines.
Russian attacks. Russian attacks on Ukraine continue on Wednesday as an attack on a market killed at least 7 people in the city of Druzhkiva. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that conversations between Russia, the United States, and Ukraine must, quote, lead to real peace and not give further opportunity to Russia to continue the war.
President Donald Trump says his administration could use, quote, a little bit of a softer touch on immigration. He said today in an exclusive interview with NBC News. At the same time, he added the government must still remain, quote, tough on what he calls hard criminals. As of late January, nearly 75% of immigrants held in U.S. immigrant detention facilities did not have a criminal record. That's according to federal data compiled by Syracuse University.
Protests against immigration enforcement continue this week in downtown Los Angeles. Various local high schools participated in a walkout Wednesday morning. A few blocks away at Our Lady of the Angels Cathedral, Los Angeles Archbishop Jose H. Gomez held a Mass for Peace. The Archbishop stated the prayers were especially for government leaders, law enforcement, and, quote, for those protesting and defending the immigrant families in Los Angeles.
Today, Byung-Soo Kim officially became the 13th president of University of Southern California. Kim served as interim president for 7 months before the Board of Trustees confirmed his official appointment. Kim reaffirmed in his letter to students, faculty, and staff that USC's core mission is education, research, and public service. He also emphasized the retainment of top faculty and staff as an academic priority.
With your teasing just to leave me till you're gone, leading me on.
Joining us in the studio today for this episode of Global Campus are Annenberg Media Investigations, editor Rio and journalist Sasha Rue. We are going to be talking about their latest story, a follow-up to previous reporting from Rio and other Annenberg students that examined how USC sold cadavers to the U.S. Navy that were used to train the Israel Defense Forces.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Our first question for you was, how did you come up upon this story in the first place?
So we first reported on these contracts back in October. And at the time, we were wondering, because there was a special date where the university and the Navy would kind of decide if this program would continue. We were wondering if it was going to continue for the next year. But there was a 90-day embargo on that information. So came back in December over the holidays and looked at the databases that keep this public information. And we found that the program was being renewed, that USC would continue to provide bodies to the Navy, and the Navy would use those bodies to train the Israeli military. What we found since then, after looking into it further, is that those bodies, which were previously believed to come from LA County, are coming from USC's own donation program. And in addition to that, the majority of the bodies are coming from the University of California's donation program. Specifically, we found a connection with UCSD. And these bodies are donated to be used for medical research, for science, and, training. But the people who donated their bodies to science are not told that their body could be used by a foreign military to, train their personnel. And these are coming from all over Southern California, at least, maybe California at large, thanks to some new developments that we found. But
Amazing. Thank you. What kind of reaction did you get when the story first broke?
So I think there were two main groups. The first group, a lot of people just in general are shocked that this is happening to bodies that are being given to the school. A pretty common reaction that I've gotten in my life is people saying, like, I wouldn't want that to be done to my body. I think another reaction that was interesting is some people were like, what's the big deal? We're helping surgeons in the Israel Defense Forces learn how to do surgery. Why is that bad? And, we can't do like a moral judgment on whether this is good or bad, but it is unique in that USC is the only university in the country with a contract directly with the Israeli military. So this is not normal. And like Rio said earlier, people are donating their bodies to science to California universities such as USC, UCSD, and the other US UCs. And they're doing it for free because they think that it's to help people make life-saving scientific discoveries. And once we confirmed in this new report that these are coming from the donation programs, then we knew for sure that USC is taking these bodies and selling them. So you're giving your body for free, and then USC is selling it to the Navy, which is giving it to the IDF. So they pass through so many different hands, but at the end of the day, there's a lack of transparency, and I think that was the big takeaway, whether people were okay with the Israeli military being involved or not. And maybe you can talk a little bit more about what we discovered about the transparency or lack thereof in this situation.
yeah, so in our article, we have what has been called by some people the wall of silence. At the end, we listed out not even all of the organizations that we reached out to, but just the most pertinent organizations that we reached out to get comment on this story. And the vast majority of them didn't answer. The only one mentioned that did answer actually was the Israeli military, and they said that they wouldn't answer. So every organization involved is kind of giving absolutely no information about this program, which I would say speaks to what they think of the program and what they think public perception of the program would be if information came out about it. But what I don't think they're taking into account is the fact that information is going to continue to come out about it because a lot of the information needs to be reported. It's publicly available. And so I guess I don't see why they would stay silent on something like this when they know that information is going to be released over time. 1 year from now, we might end up making the same exact story because that information would become public in 1 year. And all of that could be put to bed if the information was made public, but it's not being made public.
Right. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's fascinating to hear. It's intense. It's difficult. And my next question for you was, personally, what part of the investigation struck you guys the most? I mean, dealing with something that's so heavy.
I would say, going back to that theme of transparency, people don't know what's happening to the bodies that are used once they go into the program. We can, track where they're coming from when they finally get to USC. Some of the syllabi for some adjacent programs are available online. But once the bodies are used, there supposedly have been recordings taken of the trainings, but those recordings aren't made public anywhere. And they're just saying that these bodies are being used to train military medical personnel. I guess the question is how? Like, how is this body being used to train these military personnel? I think a lot of people would take issue with the way that a body has to be used in order to achieve something like that. In the past, sources have told us that they equate the practice to what they expect the practice to be, to mutilation of the body, which I think there isn't much of an argument against.
What reaction have you received since last week's story ran?
I've had a few people reach out and say that they were thankful that information is still coming out, because there were some conversations that opened up after the first article came out, but opening up those lines of communication again, especially with the specific institutions that are, a part of this program, I think is really important, because it ensures that the people who are actually involved in this process are fully aware of every part of the process. They're not just siloed off to their specific function.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming in and speaking to us a little bit more about this story. You guys are doing incredible work, and just remember to keep taking care of yourselves. I know that's really heavy, but it's awesome work. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Vamos a triunfar, avanzan ya banderas de unidad, y tú vendrás marchando junto a mí, y así.
In light of the rising intensity and violence of recent ICE raids, Annenberg Media's own Carl Massad sat down with Union del Barrio member Francisco Romero, also known as Chavo. Union del Barrio is an organization that conducts daily ICE watches to protect its communities, or barrios, from invasive ICE operations.
Bravo, thank you for joining me today. I just wanted to talk to you about your take on the recent climate when it comes to immigration raids and how the LA community is dealing with those. I know that you are part of the ICE raid watch and are part of the rapid response when it comes to ICE raids. So I just wanted to talk to you and ask you, are you perceiving any difference now than when we last talked 3-4 months ago?
These raids have not stopped. Every day coming out of Terminal Island, we have 20 to 30 vehicles coming out and that are going out to go capture people, and they're not stopping. And in fact, it feels like there's a little bit of a we're thinking that the funding has now landed and dropped, so they're bringing in more and more people to come out, and it's nonstop, daily, nonstop.
And how have you been preparing differently now than when you were before?
Well, the only tools and the self-defense that we have is to continue being vigilant. When you walk out the door, wherever you're at, looking around, making sure no suspicious vehicles are coming. And we've been informing the smaller vendors, the street vendors are now being the ones getting targeted. They're getting picked up. The person selling flowers down the street or oranges, they're just grabbing them and they're taking them. And the thing is that they're coming in so fast now and swift. They're just coming in and grabbing people and leaving. And so it's hard for us, as organizers to, alert the community in time, because by the time that we're actually hearing about what happened, they're already gone and they already took you. So what we're telling the people, we're trying to get ahead of it. We're trying to go in front of, the morning or the afternoon and say, hey, if you do not need to be out in this corner, what can we do? Can we buy you out today? Can we pay all your flowers so you could just go home? Because that's kind of the next vulnerable community that they're picking up. And before they weren't doing a lot of that. They were going more to, of course, Home Depots and bigger, larger lots, which they continue to do.
So you perceived all of this to be getting worse in the future? You don't think that this is going to let down?
No, what we think is right now, I would say we believe in the next 6 months. Now that the money is in their pockets and they're bringing people in and fast pacing everybody to get onto the street, we believe that the manner, the approach, and the violent nature of the way they're going to be picking up our people is going to get worse. Because what legal justification at this point do we have to say no more, stop? Right? They are not abiding by the rules. They're not abiding by constitutional protection. So we do believe that this next 6 months is not going to let down.
Crowds of Los Angeles teenagers took a peaceful stand Wednesday against ongoing immigration enforcement raids. Maria Laguna has the story.
So grateful for everybody to be here, but we still have fewer schools showing up.
Students from multiple LA Unified School District high schools and middle schools took to downtown Los Angeles in an organized walkout against the immigration raids taking place in Los Angeles and other cities. They took public transportation downtown, marching to City Hall carrying signs and flags. One teenager, Paulo, was among the young protesters who left his high school in East LA to head to the protest. He said he really wanted to be a part of it.
I had never protested before, and it just looked really awesome seeing all the support for the Latinos and the Mexican community.
LA USD parents also came out in support, like Anne Marie Nee, whose child is a student at Eagle Rock Junior-Senior High School.
I know that LAUSD only gives one excused absence a year for taking action like this, but I hope that more students will speak up for themselves and take more opportunity, even if that means walking out and striking from school.
Middle schoolers also made their impact known, with students as young as 6th grade participating. A middle schooler named Kevin waved a Guatemalan flag.
Our families are not criminals. They are hard workers.
He said he believes the ongoing deportations are just wrong. For Annenberg Media, I'm Maria Laguna.
You string me along with your teasing just to lead me till you're gone.
The Washington Post laid off 1/3 of its staff today. The Post's founder, Jeff Bezos, has not made public comment. Vicente Cruz has more on the story. We're experiencing technical difficulties, but we will get you that story soon. The Washington Post laid off 1/3 of its staff today. The Post's founder, Jeff Bezos, has not made public comment. Vicente Cruz has more on the story.
The deep cuts at the Post affect employees in the local and foreign sections of the newspaper. Completely gone are the sports and book section, as well as the Daily Post Reports podcast. Washington Post sports staff writer Sam Frotier shared that the Post had actually been discussing layoffs for a while.
My goal is to not only disseminate my work, but also help people understand that, there are people behind the bylines. It's not one big black box legacy media institution. And so that's kind of where we are right now.
Fortier was one of the hundreds of journalists who received the news of their layoffs this morning during a virtual Zoom meeting. Since then, he's been posting videos on social media to share this difficult reality.
It had been rumored for a long time. I wasn't surprised, but anytime you lose your job, I've been here for 7 years, it's shock, it's anger, it's sadness, it's all those stages of grief. This is something that I take a lot of pride in. I pour a lot of myself into this job. And so, I think right now I feel numb.
Daniel Durbin, a professor at USC Annenberg, shared his frustration about the recent layoffs.
The layoffs today, though, are to some degree an inevitable outcome of the environment where journalism, and especially print journalism, is diminishing and having a harder time sustaining itself, and where you have an owner who is not really a journalist or so interested in journalism, but somebody who has demonstrated again and again and again that his interest is in making money.
And that interest has come at the expense of loyal workers. For years, one of the faces reaching the Gen Z audience was former Washington Post video producer Dave Jorgensen. Now that former colleagues are facing layoffs, he's saddened by the loss of many talented writers he's once worked with.
This could have gone so many different directions, and I worry that some people might be blaming themselves or kind of thinking that they have done something wrong, but this is the most clear example. The people that were laid off today are some of the most talented people I've ever met, and so there's no rhyme or reason to that.
Jorgensen hopes that those managing legacy media will continue to do so in good faith. For Annenberg Media, I'm Vicente Cruz.
And that's all we have time for today. For on today's From Where We Are. Karma Saad was the executive producer for today's show. Naya Monet and Lizzie Leoto produced today's show.
Our board operator is Tate Haraham. Our live stream manager is Will Gwynn. Our audio director is Leslie Burstein Rojas. Sebastian Grubal is our technical supervisors, and Derek Renfro composed our theme music.
Catch us live on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News, Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Subscribe to From Where We Are, wherever you're listening right now. Finally, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Annenberg Radio. I'm Carla Cruz.
And I'm Tina Zhang. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for
From Where We Are. So, Tina, did you watch the Grammys this weekend?
I didn't, but I heard a few things.
So did I. Bad Bunny won Album of the Year. How do you feel about that?
It's amazing because, he's the first Spanish Latin artist to win an award.
Win the Album of the Year. That's really amazing. Justin Bieber's outfit for the Grammys. What do you think about that one?
Oh, it was so interesting. He was in his boxers and socks only.
Only Justin Bieber can get away with something like that.
Right.
But speaking of Bad Bunny, the Super Bowl this weekend, how are we feeling? Are you rooting for anyone, or are you just looking forward to the music?
I would say everyone should tune in.
Bad Bunny. All right, excited. Thanks so much.
Thank you.